As we reported, the most serious federal charges yet in the January 6th insurrection were unsealed today. The leader of the Oath Keepers, a right-wing paramilitary group, and 10 of his members were charged with seditious conspiracy. It is the clearest picture to date about the scope and potential conclusions of the House committee investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. In a 221-page court filing, lawyers for the committee write that there is evidence to conclude former President Donald Trump and members of his campaign, quote, engaged in a criminal conspiracy to defraud the United States as they sought to overturn the 2020 election results.
And a major city yet to be determined in Russia.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
Thank you, Senator Lee, and thank you, Senator Hatch. Appreciate the opportunity for us to address this issue, which I know is important to the people of Utah. I'd like to just mention that, again, I think as we talk about the Bears Ears area, which is really the focus of this discussion here,
just tonight, before we go home, to just acknowledge, well, this tax cut really is not for the middle class, it's for the rich. And that whole thing about higher wages, well, it's a good selling point, but we know companies don't just give away higher wages. They just don't give away higher wages just because they have more money. Corporations are sitting on a lot of money now. They're sitting on a lot of profits now. I don't see wages going up. So just spare us the bank shots, spare us the sarcasm and the satire, and let's move.
I'm going to spare it, but I'm going to just say to you that I come from the poor people, and I've been here working my whole stinking career for people who don't have a chance. And I really resent anybody saying that I'm just doing this for the rich.
Through federal filings, we confirmed the numbers on 12 funds, each with more than one web domain owned by the LDS Church. The funds control about $31.9 billion in investments.
This is very exciting for me. I know so many people that are in your church.
such a great honor.
The job you've done is beyond anything you can think of.
We're here in a place where we have food and material that we give to the poor.
Good stuff.
But this is simply an example of what we do across the world.
One here next door.
Come on outside. Let's get a picture. Come on. We're very proud of you. Really proud of you. You know, if you go out and you want to buy groceries, you need a picture on a card. You need ID. I am the chosen one. I hope that this investigation now, which is finished, it's totally finished, no collusion, no obstruction. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges.
Travis Wingitzel. Most of you youngins are unfamiliar with the Watergate scandal involving the resignation of President Richard Nixon from the presidency. And even less of you are aware that it was a Mormon who brought him down through Bob Woodward, the one who's been writing books lately about Trump, hoping to bring him down. You're not interviewing the right deep throat, Bob. Another Mormon took him down, or is about to. That's what was announced yesterday in the news. Bob Woodward had made contact with someone who is nicknamed Deep Throat. And yes, it has to do with the movie. Deep Throat that came out during that time. And it has been revealed that a Mormon is the one who was codenamed Deep Throat, who had been communicating with Bob Woodward, which led to the resignation of President Richard Nixon. His name is William Mark Felt Sr. And so he died in December 18th, 2008. Was born August 17th, 1913. And his nickname, Deep Throat. Hilarious. A Mormon took down a president of the United States. And so, if you've been paying attention to the news, you heard about what seems to be separate, isolated instances. Oopsie! Don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah, the Oath Keeper, he pled guilty for his sedition conspiracy. La 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 la. If you remember, Attorney General Barr, during the Black Lives Matter protest movement, came out talking to prosecutors, informing them to use the seditious conspiracy charge against Black Lives Matter protesters. Fortunately, they didn't. But after January 6th, the Oath Keeper was charged with seditious conspiracy. Also in the news yesterday, the January 6th committee says they've got evidence. We've already known the evidence. But they're now coming out and saying, after the Oath Keeper had pled guilty to seditious conspiracy for January 6th, the January 6th committee has now found that Trump has been involved in criminal activity. You seeing the connection? Trump is going to be charged with seditious conspiracy as a former president. And so you're going, yeah, but how does that have to do with a Mormon? Yeah, there were Mormons involved in January 6th. The one who scaled the Senate chamber. Yeah, the Mormon from Idaho who's involved in his job with little boys. He pled guilty. Mormon rap. Should have them on the screen for you. Why didn't I have them on the screen? My kingdom for them on the screen. I've got two of them. One from Docket Justia and the Pace Monitor. You'll notice a familiar name. And not just the corporation of the President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And if you're confused, I refer you to the beginning of my video where I'll most likely have my name on the title page. Yep. Pace Monitor, however, only has my last name, Yeah, Justia has my full name and has the case number, and it has been dismissed. I was denied petitioning for a redress of grievances. That's what you guys need to understand. I was not allowed to sue the church. The federal judges, and there are 2 cases, this is the second one. On Justia, you'll see that David Barlow is the presiding judge. No, that's not the case. He recused himself. He's Mormon. He has to. But you'll notice on Goodsell v. I don't have the first one. I'm not doing the first one for you. It's just the second one. The first one involved Judge Waddups, Mormon. In the second one, 220 CA 00633, 3 Mormon judges recused themselves. Hilarious! And a miscarriage of justice, which is tragic. And you don't quite see it from what the clerk's input for the nature of the suit. It's RICO with corrupt organizations. There's also seditious conspiracy in that. And because it's RICO with seditious conspiracy, it had to be brought to the attention of the U.S. Attorney General, which at the time was Barr, Attorney General Barr. And we all know the results now. Now you know the rest of the story. Oh, you youngins don't know him either? Yeah, he was a classic. So, but the majority of my audience know him. Now you know the rest of the story. Because the majority of my audience are my age and up. Let's get his name. Paul Harvey. Now you know the rest of the story. And so I've already got a guilty plea with my filing charge against the church, the Oath Keeper. And as you now are aware of, they're going after the former asterisk 45. Because of me, a Mormon. Just like in Nixon. A Mormon brought down Nixon. A Mormon's going to bring down the guy who also patterned his presidency after Nixon. Who had people who loved Nixon too. Patterned or advised Trump according to Nixon's presidency. Hilarious. Do you not see how big of an influence the Mormon Church is on the world? You have the church involved in paying Putin for the war in Ukraine and for the nukes. Lest we forget the nukes. Zenke, is that his name? In asterisk 45's presidency. Zinke, Ryan Zinke, former Secretary of the Interior, came to Utah, all the Bears Ears scandal. Yeah, well, there was a scandal you missed because you weren't watching my videos on Travis Wayne Goodsell, covering it. Yeah, the church is involved there too. Have you noticed how Putin keeps wanting to take over the nuclear power plants in Ukraine? Chernobyl already obtained. Now he's going after the other one in the one city. The bombings has occurred since yesterday. Yeah, interesting. Well, wait a minute. Putin, certain Asterisk 45, canceled the nuke missile agreement so that Putin can again start testing for the long-range nuke missiles. Huh, that's interesting. But there was Iran who were making enriched uranium, which was then being sold to Russia. And they had to take it the extra mile. Well, Trump ruined that agreement too, and Iran was therefore enriching uranium at a higher level than according to the previous agreement. And then Asterisk 45, at the beginning of his presidency, was talking about Little Rocket Man and Fire and Fury, and saying he wants more nukes. He wants more nukes. And then Bears Ears with Zinke comes to Utah, hands over Bears Ears to commercial industries. What commercial industries? Is it just so that developers can establish 2 new towns? No! The Washington Post exposed uranium! Uranium mining was the agreed upon contract for Bears Ears after it was overthrown as a national park, a national refuge or whatever. And TYT also covered it on their YouTube channel. That's Uranium One, WON, as their mockery, because if you remember, Asterisk 45 was complaining about Uranium One, ONE, with Hillary Clinton, which had nothing there. He was just complaining about it. Uranium One, oh, there's something there, deep state Dems. And so, yes, TYT had a field day. Cenk was all mocking the situation with Bears Ears, reported by the Washington Post. And so Governor Herbert had to cancel the deal because he got exposed for his crimes, and he got up and said, "Well, this is not for coal or oil mining. Nope, you guys are wrong. It's not for coal or oil. Yeah, it was for uranium. For who? Who? Putin? Yeah." And so then you have the situation with Senator Hatch getting into a fight with Senator Brown. And Senator Brown was exposing the rushed December 2017 tax bill and saying nothing is for the poor in this bill. And Senator Hatch gets all angry. I was born poor! How dare you! And the tax bill passes, and we all find out, yeah, it was for the rich, but as a Mormon, yeah, he did it for the church. And Max Roth from Fox 13 News Utah comes out in May of 2018 after Nelson. Oh, the tax bill passes, Monson dies at just the right time, and the church is now being reported as having commenced LLC corporations in accordance with the new tax bill. and got $32 billion that they laundered into the stock market. See, that's an extra $32 billion, people. See, the church has dozens of sources of income. Dozens. See, each university is a separate source of income. Whether or not they have a separate financial company to invest 10% of those earnings, it's unclear. The church won't let us know. The whistleblower exposed only for tithing with Ensign Peak Advisors. Only tithing investments are through Ensign Peak Advisors. But the First Presidency confirmed, yeah, this is what we do with every source of income. We have an investment company that takes 10% out of the revenue from the source that we get from, and we invest it in the same manner that Ensign Peak Advisors does. And so LDS Charities, Nelson got up and said, hey, $2 billion. Yeah, well, guess what? That means they took 10%, 200, is it 200 million? Yeah, 2 billion is 200 million, and invested it in a separate LLC corporation. So anything, fast offerings, the missionary fund, the temple fund, any and everything, City Creek Mall. Yeah, City Creek Mall. The church is doing that. With the scandal that the whistleblower exposed, the church is continuing to commit crimes with. Wow. And remember, the video I did yesterday or the day before, that talked about, yeah, it was on the Nobody Cared. You guys, you gotta understand how vital I am in your lives. You just quickly dismiss me as wrong and don't know what I'm doing. I'm just some crazy guy. You have no clue. BYU study says wealthy Mormons go to Celestial Kingdom. It only has 31 views in 23 hours. That clip, where he says, he quotes about from Joseph Fielding Smith Sr., you know, his father-in-law, his father-in-law, isn't it? Would have been one of his daughters that Bruce R. McConkie married, and so Joseph Fielding Smith Jr. would be a brother-in-law. Is that how it worked? I have to check their genealogy, but regardless, he married into the family. So he's quoting his father-in-law, who was president of the church, technically asterisk president of the church, if you've seen my videos exposing this, because Nelson's only number 11, not number 17. And so he says from the quote to the effect that a church that cannot physically provide for the membership has not the power to save them spiritually. And then Bruce R. McConkie goes on to talk about how Mormons are responsible for themselves, to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. What? Church is responsible for making Mormons prosperous so that they can be self-reliant, but you're saying the church is only going to give fish. Oh, that's right, the Perpetual Education Fund, which came from the Perpetual Immigration Fund, which was what caused the United States to shut down the church to make Nelson number 11 and not 17, was what you resurrected with the Perpetual Education Fund, which was the Perpetual Immigration Fund. So, yeah, and a Perpetual Education Fund, 10% from the donations, and the payback from those who used it go into a separate LLC company to make the church even more money. That you need to understand. There's dozens of different LLC companies, and if you total them up, we're looking at trillions of dollars for the church that they're hiding. You've probably seen the YouTube videos about how the super elite, we only hear about Bezos and Gates and Musk and how wealthy they are, and they're the wealthiest ones that are reported on Forbes. But then you hear the YouTube videos about the super elite that we never hear of, that are ultra wealthy. Well, that's the church. Tithing alone, when that came out with the whistleblower, the church was considered poorer than the Catholic Church. But with the whistleblower's report of just tithing alone, scooted the church up to number 1. Blowing out the Catholic Church. Hilarious. So, yeah, understand that the reason why Nelson is working with Putin for Armageddon in Ukraine, Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38, is because Putin wants the uranium. He wants nukes. That's what it's all about for him. He's trying to transition out of gas and oil into nukes, all things nuke, and has been trying all these years different ways to try to acquire more uranium as a result, and the church was playing a part in that. And so when you hear and put all the pieces together, the Russians are considered by Nelson as the lost 10 tribes. And so our scriptures say the lost 10 tribes are coming to Zion in the latter days of the millennium after the war. Well, Nelson has declared Salt Lake City, Utah, as Zion. And so Russians are coming to Utah. For why? What purpose? Bears Ears uranium. Do you see what's going on here? It has nothing to do with the religion. It's all about business. And the church has made a deal with Putin that they get Deseret back and Putin gets his uranium. And America's destroyed and the rest of the governments of the world are destroyed. Ta-da! And I'm the only one who's put all the pieces of the puzzle together. This is what journalists, news reporters are supposed to be doing when they do investigative journalism. And none of them are doing it. And so both Putin and the church are getting away with this. As I keep listening to the news, oh no, what is Putin doing with, what is he going to do with a nuclear power plant? Oh, he's not very smart. He's brilliant. He knows that NATO would not militarily defend Ukraine because Ukraine is not part of NATO. He knew this in advance. He knew. And he knew the sanctions would be involved. He knew. He already planned for this. The oligarchs are the ones that the church did business with for the temple yet to be determined in Russia. Because nobody does business with Putin directly. It's all through the oligarchs. That's what Putin set them up for. And they have to do what Putin orders. And it's a criminal organization. And so when you do business with Russia, you're doing business with a criminal organization. The church did business with a criminal organization. The church is a criminal organization. And so I see it. It's very clear and horrifying to me. But the news is not doing their job. And so, yeah, all these sanctioning on the oligarchs, because they're hiding Putin's money. Yeah, okay. But the damage already was done. See, Putin has full confidence that he'll continue to take over all of Ukraine now. As long as he does not attack any of the NATO countries, and he threatens nuclear war if any of the NATO countries, including the United States, tamper in his seizing of Ukraine. He's already got Belarus. That's the one I reported. He occupies Belarus now. You know, Belarus, the president there, already wants to be involved and brought his troops in. The Ukrainian people are screaming for help, and all we're doing is, yay, go team. You know, sanctioning Putin. You don't need money to live. The church sanctioned me. And so, yeah, they destroyed my main source of income, as I keep reporting to you that's what they did when they got upset that I made the connection to the church and Putin with this war. They didn't like that. And so they came after me and sanctioned me, destroying my main source of income. And so I'm running out of supplies. I'm having to go back to the knowledge that my grandma taught me about during the Great Depression, what people here in America had to do. I'm not to that point yet, but it's coming the longer this goes on. And all because I exposed the church. See, the courts here in Utah aren't coming after the church. The DOJ not coming after the church. But because of my lawsuit against the church, the second one, I brought down a president of the United States of America. And none of you realize this until this video. Ta-da! And so the other video I did and put on my main page, this is how much of an influence I was on the church, on you guys, in the church. And now here, how I've had an effect on the whole world. Do you understand how important I am? You're not coming across this yet. Yeah, who is Mormon and critic Travis Wayne Goodsell that we should know him? It only has 31 views in 10 hours. Nobody cares. You guys aren't understanding. Alrighty.